Hey guys, and welcome back. Illusion here with you again, like always. Back for part 3 of the AE2 multi-part series. If you've missed part 1 and part 2, definitely go back and check it out. It'll all be in the playlist. So, in the last video, we talked about setting up our very first network. Today, we're going to work on expanding that network and using a little bit more to our advantage to make things a little bit easier. So first thing I want to show you is something I forgot to show you in part 2, and I noticed it when I was rendering the video, is if we take a piece of regular Certus quartz, put it in the charger, and we can put a wooden crank on it and bang it a few times, and it will charge the Certus quartz manually. I'd venture to say most people probably will not be using it because they'll probably have like some sort of even basic tier power system in play, even if it's just like we see right here, we're just a furnace generator. But I'm trying to show you everything in the pack or everything in the mod, so definitely want to show that. I've also heard that in a newer version of thermal expansion, you will also be able to charge Certus quartz in the energetic infuser, I believe. But I tested out in this pack. I'm on the FTB Infinity pack, and it's not working here, so maybe it's something coming down the pipe a little bit later. So let's get working on today's project. One of the biggest changes I've noticed from AE1 and AE2, and I think it's the most remarkable difference, is the addition of channels. And what I mean by channels is if you look on Wally right there, it says 0 of 8 channels. So each piece of cable can have a certain number of items connected to it to share data. And we're going to kind of talk about this a little bit more. And once you reach that cap, then you're going to have to kind of run a piece of cable. Versus an AE1, you just hooked everything up in one long chain and it worked out okay. So let's drop down a controller. To make a controller is skystone block, which is just smelted skystone, some pure flux crystals, and engineering processor. To make this pure flux crystal, you need some flux C, which is just a flux crystal, through a pulverizer, grindstone, whatever you're using. Combine it with a piece of sand, and then you drop it down with the puddle to grow up, and you can add the crystal growth accelerators. Basically, it's the same process for pure Certus quartz. So let's drop down a controller and we're going to start playing with it. So you'll see it light up. Got some pretty neat, interesting patterns, and I believe the max size off the top of my head is 7 by 7 by 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, it is. And you can see now it's red, indicating that something's wrong. There's an issue. Pop that back off, and you see everything is good to go again. So we could make a cube out of it if we wanted to. Well, I'll just make a on the ground. I'm not gonna make a full cube because it'll take too long. So now we can start using this as kind of our brain of our AE system. Now let's run a couple pieces of cable off of here. Now I'm using smart cable. And the biggest difference between smart cable and regular cable is that Wally will tell you how many channels are in use. Now, let's say if I'm just using regular flux crystal, you can see Wally does not read it, but it will with the smart. There's a little bit of price increase. You can see it does take some extra redstone, glowstone, and a piece of wool to upgrade to that. You know, it depends on what you feel is worth it. So each piece of smart cable and regular glass cable can transmit a limit of 8 channels per line. So that means this magenta line can do 8 channels, this yellow line can do 8 channels. If I threw down an orange piece, that can do 8 channels, and so forth and so on. Here I got some white in my inventory. So now we have 32 channels right there ready to go. And what I mean by a channel is, let's say if I drop down a drive right here, you can see now that this magenta is using 1 out of 8. So if I drop down 4 drives, you'll see my Wally, if you can see it right there, it's now 8 out of 8 because I have 8 channels being used by 8 of these drives. See what I mean? So each device that uses data will use up a channel. Now, so that's kind of the biggest difference between AE1 and AE2. Now, there is something called dense cable. So if I thought I grabbed some. I may not have. If I can spell. Yeah, I did. I thought I did. We'll use orange so it won't connect to this white. Now the difference between this dense cable and this smart cable right here, as you can see Wally is saying it transmits 32 channels. And that's because of the cost difference, because it takes 4 pieces of regular cable to make up one dense cable. So you can see that's why the price increased, but it also gives you a little bit more, it gives you more channels per piece of cable. And the same thing applies to here. So if I click down, and you can see right here, now we have 2 of 32. So when we go back to the controller right here, each block face of the controller can output a channel, or output a piece of cable. Well, I don't want to do that because they'll connect. So you have to get a little bit creative. You have to wrap your head around your 8-channel limit. Now there is such thing called a P2P channel or P2P network. In AE2, it's a little bit convoluted. It's hard for me to explain. We're not going to get into it in this video, but it allows you to kind of rework your system to allow you to have more connection points per piece of channel. So biggest change to AE2 is the introduction of these channels. Now I'm going to make a note of this. There is a config option in the configuration part of your folder to turn off channels. It does not come when you install the mod or you play a pack. It's defaulted to playing with channels, but if you want to play more of like an AE1 style, then there is an option for you to turn that off and allow you to run wild with these with all your different items. So I'm just going to put that out there. A lot of people don't know that. I would say a lot of people are pretty frustrated with AE2 because myself, like many others, were forced into rewiring a base or sitting there staring at an AE2 network trying to figure out how the hell am I going to get all this stuff on one piece of cable. Well, now I got to find the resources to find another piece of cable. So, or you have to tear something up to rewire it. It's happened. It's happened to a lot of people. It's happened to me more than once until I kind of wrapped my head around how to use channels appropriate. And you know, it's almost to get to the point where you have to set up a base based around your AE2 network. And I know that kind of irritated a lot of people. I'll show you the recipe for cable if I haven't already. Piece of quartz cable, quartz fiber, and 2 flux crystals. It gives you 4 pieces of cable, and then you can color it to make whatever you need. So like with a piece of white dye, there's white, black, etc. So now let's start using some of the more pieces and parts as we continue to expand our network. So let's just get rid of all this. So I have a little bit of room to work. I'm going to toss down a drive. And let's grab just a terminal. Nope, wrong click. Bam. And let's throw in a few drives, and let's throw in all this cobble right here. Now, one thing you should note is I'm now using 2 of 8 channels because this terminal, all terminals count as one channel because it's accessing the data of the network. So channel equals accessing data. There are a few pieces in here that don't require data, but they do require power, so that will not use a channel. So let's play with some more things, and let's play with the buses. So we have a import bus, which imports things from the network, storage bus, and export bus. So let's play with these things right here. So I'm going to slap down a DSU, grab a little piece of cable. One quick note is that regular Fluix cable, both dense and regular, will connect to any color cable. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through a little bit of explanation of what each of these buses do, if it wasn't already pretty clear. So what I'm going to do, and since I have cobble in this network, I'm going to tell this export bus that you should export cobble into this DSU. Okay? Go ahead and do that for me. And you can see it's going rather slowly, and you can see it ticking down in here. But there are quite a few upgrades right over here. So let's pull up my NEI. Alright, so let's talk about a little bit of the upgrades. So we have a capacity card. We have a crafting card, not really useful in this situation. Acceleration card, that's useful in this situation. Let's use those two. So a capacity card, what it's going to do, and it's got nice tool tips, so I'll tell you what you could use it in. You can see I'm locked out of these other 8 squares. A capacity card will allow me to have access to 4 more, and then a second capacity card will allow me to have access to all 9 slots. It's kind of the difference between like the 2 different types of buses in AE1. Now an acceleration card, just like you may think, could go faster. It looks like we got a little over 200, and you can see it going up much quicker now, to where it's now drained out all of the cobble. And of course you can put more than one in there as you see fit. So pretty neat stuff, right? So the next thing I want to show you is the storage bus. So you can see we have 256 cobble in there. We have nothing in our network. And what a storage bus will do will act as an import and export to your network. Now you see I put that storage bus on there, and now it's actually reading that I have 320 cobble in my network, but even though there's nothing on the drives. See what I mean? So it kind of uses that as a access the inventory. You can both pull out of it, and you can both put in it. Again, nothing on my drives. So this makes it pretty easy for your storing a lot of your big number of things like cobble and dirt. Or you can use it as like a really basic network where you just slap down a storage bus on a couple chests and just use your chest as the storage medium instead of using drives. So pretty cool things. So one last thing we're going to talk about is the import bus, which is kind of the opposite of the export bus, right? You can see it slowly dragging cobble back into the network. Again, we can use that acceleration card, kind of speed things up a little bit. It should go up to 320, and you can see now our cobble is back on our storage drive and out of the DSU. You can see using 72 bytes with one type. Pretty cool thing. You also notice right here on the collar, I want to call it, you'll see kind of that dark blue. That is going to indicate that this has power. So let's go back to the channel thing. Since we are using another device that's pulling data off the network, we're now using 3 out of our 8 channels. If I slap down a storage bus, or let's just do it like this, we're now going to be using 4 of 8. So you can quickly fill up a channel or a piece of cable with one block face of the controller very quickly with just a few items. Pretty cool. Now if I disconnect this, I want to show you what it looks like. You can see it kind of looks like it's disconnected, and then that dark blue is letting you know everything is okay. If I come back and click on, what are we on? This is using 158 RF a tick, and that's mostly because the ME controllers are using so much power. They're using 144 out of the 158, so definitely not efficient to use that unless you got the power to spare. You can see we're now at 24 and rolling down. And the reason these stay lit on, if you can see on Walia, they actually do have an internal battery that will slowly drain out. You see that one's now at 0 RF, 0 RF, 0 RF, and it'll slowly drain out until there's no more internal capacity. So that's kind of your basic overview of using channels and using the import and export buses and a few of the upgrades. Now I didn't show you the recipe on everything because everybody's got NEI, so you can kind of check out the recipes. It's not cheap to get into AE2 like it was with AE1, but it is a very powerful system. And with the upgrades that come in AE2, you can get to very complex things. So that's going to do it for episode 3, part 3 of this AE2 spotlight. The next video we're going to do is we're going to look into some automation. Now that we know how to use our buses, we can actually start to do automation. And the very first thing you automate when AE2 is automating more AE2. They'll have the network build itself. So we'll do that next episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any feedback. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys soon.